Back when I was in college, I found myself working at Subway during the summer break. One bustling Saturday, I was stationed behind the counter cheerfully taking customers' orders. The day was unfolding smoothly, a typical weekend rush, until a man approached requesting 2 feet-long subs. I punched in the order he paid, and I handed him his receipt before moving on to the next customer in line. Just a minute later, the man reappeared at the counter claiming he had been charged for 2 footlongs when he had only wanted one. I respectfully reminded him that he had indeed ordered two, as I distinctly recalled him saying so. This response seemed to irk him, and his tone grew sharp as he said, "Don't twist my words." I know what I said. "I apologize, sir. That wasn't my intention," I replied, trying to defuse the situation. However, I could sense his short temper simmering. I made another attempt at reconciliation, offering to refund the extra sub and serve him just the one he wanted, but he dismissed my offer, his frustration mounting. He began insisting that I should be fired for the perceived mistake. Urging him to calm down had no effect. His voice rose, and the attention of everyone in the restaurant was now focused on the escalating exchange. Fortunately, one of my colleagues, Jack, intervened, approaching the man to engage in a conversation. After a brief dialogue, the man declared that he no longer desired anything and simply wished to leave. We returned his money, and for a moment, I thought the ordeal had concluded. That is until he leaned in glaring over the counter and whispered, "I'll be waiting for you when you're off." I wasn't sure if he meant it as a threat or an attempt at humor, but it was clear this individual had some serious issues given the fuss he had made over an extra sub. I brushed off his words, assuming they were empty. He turned and exited, and I continued my shift unfazed by his comment. I didn't anticipate that he would actually follow through with his words. It seemed highly improbable. The day rolled on, and my shift came to an end around 10 p.m., gathering my belongings. I headed towards my car in the parking lot. As I approached, my heart sank. At the far end of the lot, a car door swung open, and out stepped the same man. I was dumbfounded. He had actually waited for me without a second thought. I sprinted towards my car, his footsteps hot on my heels. I nearly reached my car door when he grabbed my arm, attempting to pull me away in the frenzy. I let out an uncharacteristic shriek. My panicked reaction unleashed a spray of pepper spray in all directions. Amid the struggle, the spray reached his face, causing him to release his grip and flee. I accidentally caught some of the spray myself, but I managed to scramble into my car and lock the door. My eyes stung, but I gathered my wits after a few minutes. Two concerned passers-by approached my car inquiring about my well-being and offering to call the police. I accepted their offer, and the police arrived shortly thereafter. Taking down my account of the encounter, regrettably, the man evaded capture, but I consider myself fortunate that I emerged unharmed. The entire ordeal left me dumbfounded, especially the fact that he had waited nearly 7 hours to confront me. I work at Subway, and for the most part, I enjoy my job. It's a nice gig to have during high school. The creepiest thing that's ever happened to me while working was about 2 months ago. I was working at 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. shift that evening. It started as a normal night. I was teamed up with my friend Jake, who also attended our high school. That hours seemed to pass by slowly, with only one significant rush during the entire evening. As the clock finally struck 10 p.m., it was time to close down. We hadn't had any customers for about 10 minutes. So the restaurant was completely empty while I tootied up behind the counter and stored away items. Jake grabbed a broom to sweep the floor one last time simultaneously. He started putting chairs on top of the tables, deciding to ensure the restrooms were in order. I checked the women's restroom first, satisfied. I moved to the men's room, opening the door. I was startled to find a man sitting in the corner. His presence caught me completely off guard. I nearly jumped out of my skin. I hadn't noticed this man at all. During our shift, he had fairly long black hair and was dressed in a black jacket and jeans. He stared right at me as I opened the door. Quickly recovering, I managed to inform him that we were closed and he needed to leave. He remained silent, just sitting there, realizing that he might be under the influence of something. I cautiously approached the man as he started to rise. I took a step back, but instead of exiting, he closed the restroom door, feeling uneasy. I retreated and informed Jake about the unsettling encounter. He suggested we call the police. Gathering my courage, I decided to head back to the restroom and make it clear that he needed to leave immediately, or I would call the police as I neared the restroom. A distinct sound shattered the silence, the sound of glass breaking. This alarmed me enough to reconsider confronting the man. Instead, I dashed back to Jake and urged him to accompany me outside. We retreated to my car and dialed the police within about 10 minutes. The police arrived at the scene and entered the restaurant soon after they emerged with the man in custody, relieved we were able to return and complete the closing process. However, the aftermath revealed the extent of the man's intrusion. He had smashed the mirror in the bathroom and caused damage to several other items. In the end, we were able to finish up our duties, though the unsettling incident left a lasting impression. I sincerely hope that nothing like that ever happens again. Like most people, I've frequented the subway countless times, probably over 100 visits. Last year, I was living in an apartment conveniently situated within a short walk of a subway restaurant. It was just a quick stroll down one street and across another, taking about 10 minutes at most. This convenience proved to be a lifesaver, especially on those late nights when my demanding job often kept me working until the early hours, leaving me starving. One particular night, a few months ago, remains etched in my memory. It was a typical Friday, another marathon day at work. As I returned to my apartment, a mix of exhaustion and hunger set in. Despite the hour, my stomach was not about to be ignored. I decided to make a quick trip to the nearby subway, placing my order at the counter. I noticed the restaurant was nearly deserted, a common sight at that late hour. Once my order was ready, I picked up my sandwich and headed back home. This particular subway had its back area bordering a small park situated on the outskirts of a shopping district. It led to a quieter residential neighborhood precisely where my apartment was located. To get back home, I followed a sidewalk running alongside the restaurant before crossing the street. As I walked alone on the sidewalk, I began to hear faint footsteps trailing behind me. The silence of the night seemed to magnify every sound out of curiosity and a growing sense of caution. I turned to look over my shoulder. The street was eerily quiet with no cars passing by and no other pedestrians in sight. To my surprise, I saw a man dressed as a circus clown, the complete outfit. It wasn't a holiday or any occasion that would justify such a costume, making the encounter all the more puzzling. He was walking the same path as me, almost as if he had materialized from the shadows upon reaching the street where I needed to cross. I assumed the circus clown would continue on his way, however, much to my unease, he followed me across, though he maintained a significant distance. His persistent presence set my nerves on edge. Finally, Back at my apartment complex, I experienced a mix of emotions, relief from being indoors, yet a heightened discomfort due to his continued proximity. He kept his distance, his gait marked by an odd, almost mechanical rhythm with a sense of urgency. I hurried to my apartment on the 4th floor, locked the door, and felt a sense of safety, avoiding looking out the window. I couldn't confirm where he had gone yet. As my curiosity got the best of me, I eventually glanced outside. To my alarm, the circus clown stood motionless in the small park area, his gaze fixated on my window. His expression remained unchanged, a disconcerting image that sent shivers down my spine. I quickly closed the blinds, blocking out the eerie sight. I proceeded to shut all the blinds in my apartment, determined to shake off the unsettling encounter by morning. The mysterious figure had vanished. To this day, I remain intrigued by his identity and motives. Looking back, the encounter takes on an even more disconcerting quality, a mysterious and unsettling reminder of an inexplicable late-night encounter with a stranger who chose to follow me.